Welcome back to Fiets of Strength, everybody. Happy Festivus to all of you who celebrate. In this video, I'm going to build the mountain bike that I've always wanted. And it's a Klunker. For those who don't know what a Klunker is, Google exists. If you can't be bothered, long story short, it is the OG of mountain bikes. Back in the 70s, people were trying to ride trails, get out into mountain biking, which was a thing that didn't exist yet. So the most robust bicycles they had access to were cruisers. These balloon-tired bikes could be easily modified for time on the trails. So while we're on the subject of bicycle modification, let's talk about that, and in the spirit of Festivus, do a little airing of grievances. Let's say you've got yourself a pretty thrashed bike, like this one. It's broken. It might require a bit more than your standard amount of service to get it back out and riding, but you know what? You can do the bare minimum, and you can make it an enjoyable bicycle with a little bit of TLC, a little bit of repair work. To be fair, this one's going to need a bit more than that. We might need to break out the welder to reinforce some of these joints and junctures and stuff like that. It's a metaphor. Go with me. So here is our real-life thrashed frame. This is probably a late 50s Firestone cruiser bike. This was gifted to me by a next-door neighbor on his moving day. I've already removed some of the old parts off of it. These pedals have certainly seen better days. Cool old chainring, though. Maybe I'll do something fancy with that someday. And a really stout fork. The stem was seized in the fork, and the seat post was seized in the frame, so we had to do some surgical removal. We can reinforce some of these joints here so we don't accidentally rip the head tube out while we're riding around. I'm going to use the MIG welder for this just because there's all of the brazing in here, and the MIG will deal with some of the contamination a little bit better. Not great, just better. So first things first, cleaning up some of the areas that I'm going to weld to with the wire wheel, pulling some of the old paint and grime and junk off of there, and giving myself a nice, fresh, clean surface to apply a weld. Here's where some of my grievances come in. At what point do you draw the line about modifying a bicycle? Is it some new fancy components, or if you're already welding to it or trying to get it back on the road, why not make it a little bit stronger? Take a BMX bike, for example. They're great, they're robust, they're strong, gussets in all the right places, fancy handlebars, cool wheels. If you're modifying a bicycle, why can't you just take these same principles and apply it to, say, a cruiser bike frame? There's no harm in that. It's for you. It's fun. You're doing it in the name of safety. I mean, you want it to be strong, right? So let's go ahead and add some gussets here to our cruiser frame. I've just got some mild steel. It's from the hardware store. I couldn't be bothered to go to my steel supplier for this. Here's a little thing that happens sometimes. You're using the MIG welder, the tip clogs up, there's not enough gas flow, and you get a contaminated weld that looks like Swiss cheese. Don't freak out. It's an easy fix. Not a big deal in this case. I'm just going to stop what I'm doing, very carefully grind it back, apply a new weld, and we're off to the races. Since we're gusseting everything up, let's stiffen up the rear end. One of the beautiful things of some of these old cruiser bikes is the thicker tubing that they used. In fact, this head tube, which was originally for a 1-inch threaded steerer tube, has enough meat that we can actually machine it out to accept 1 1/8" cup. That means we can put a more modern fork on this bike. Now we're getting into the fun parts of bike modification. We are going to need to reinforce this since we're removing material, and it's actually a little bit softer steel, all things considered, so in the interest of not dying, we'll make some extra supports. Unfortunately, adding some reinforcements does mean modifying this really cool head badge, but, we're modifying everything on the bike, so whatever. At this point, you're probably saying, I don't know. This seems awfully dangerous. You're getting a little out of hand. No, maybe it's you who's getting out of hand. I think I'm being responsible. You saw me reinforce the frame, right? Let's be honest, this bike was never going to get restored. Now, I like the patina that's on this bike, and I've added a little bit of my own, but I am going to go ahead and clear coat this because, I don't want it to rust up too fast. I have a way more modern fork here, which I'm going to put onto this bike. Plenty of tire clearance and the ability to add a disc brake to the front in the future if I want to, but it definitely doesn't match the bike. So we're going to see if we can create a little false patina on here. I'm going to do that by layering up a couple different colors of spray paint. Heat gun some of it just to get it to dry faster. But I'm not too worried about this being a perfect finish because, again, we're trying to match the patina of the rest of the frame. So a little bit of chaos, being erratic, that's going to be the best way to go. Basically, all of this is just about layering textures and colors. I'm guessing that this bike was probably originally an old fire engine red, so we'll apply some of that lightly to as an undercoat. And then anytime I want to make something look old and rusty, I use some of this brown primer paint. And because the frame is all chipped and beaten up, I'm going to just grab some chain here and do the same to the fork. Plenty of paint chips will help match the whole patina. Yeah, it's not too bad. This brown paint will dry a little bit more matte colored and it should blend in a little bit better. And with a little bit of Scotch-Brite, I can pull some detailing out from underneath while the paint is still damp. We'll set it off to the side to dry and move on to the next thing. Oh, by the way, most of these old cruiser bikes have a really crappy metal seat post in them. I upgraded to a nice chromoly one. I think this one was from Pork Chop BMX. Anyway, I'll link down below. Also, we're ditching the whole one-piece crank set and switching over to a threaded bottom bracket with these cool race face cranks. I picked up a really handy, really cheap bottom bracket converter. It'll switch it over from the old BMX bottom bracket to something I put in a threaded crank set. $10 online, totally worth it. I did track down some pretty cool bear trap-ish kind of pedals, but the spindles on these were bent, so I kind of sort of tried my hand at straightening them. We'll just cut to that real quick. Basically finding the high spot in the spindle, and with the high spot upwards, trying to hammer that downwards, ultimately to straighten it out. I'm not entirely sure that my efforts to straighten the spindles really did anything, but it was fun to give it a go. It helped a little bit, and that's good enough. Now, this old cruiser bike was originally built for 26-inch balloon tires with fenders, yada yada. That basically means that we can now clear a larger tire size without having to modify the frame. So, let's go 27.5 with it. I built up this back coaster brake rear wheel. Cut to a quick wheel building montage right now. If you haven't built a wheel yet in your life, I strongly recommend learning how to do it. It is meditative and rewarding. You get to build a thing and then go rip the shit out of it. This is a little bit of detensioning and introducing a bend into each of the spoke heads. Don't try this one on your own. It's helpful to have the guidance of somebody that knows what they're doing the first time around, just so you don't screw anything up. Hey, quick tip, if you're putting a new chain onto a bike and you get that stiff link where you just put the pin back through, sometimes if you grasp it firmly and wiggle it side to side laterally back and forth, you can loosen that pin up a little bit, get rid of some of that stiffness. And now we get to the fun part of any bike build, the accessories, the stuff you get to look at all the time, putting on some fancy grips, new handlebars. Getting your old cruiser bike back on the road and making it simply rideable again, that's all good and fine. But if you have the opportunity to make it a little bit nicer, a little bit fancier, go a little crazy with it, because you got a steel bike and it's yours, why not have some fun? All right, enough of this. Let's go outside and ride. On aesthetics alone, I am hyped on this build. The patina is awesome. It is a decently lightweight bike. It's got the super wide modern handlebars. I found a good use for my Brooks saddle, coaster brake, single speed, simple, fun, shred bike. And now, in the spirit of Festivus, let's get to the Fiets of Strength. We are gonna get snow in Portland this weekend. Please let it snow. Happy holidays, everybody. And if you don't celebrate the holidays, fine by me. Build yourself up a sweet bike. Go find some fun in the woods. That's the best kind of celebration there is. I hope your holidays involve new bike day, or at least some fun little decorations around your tree, however your tree might be decorated, or whatever the lights around your house might look like. That's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.